I don't know what we can talk about in this nation without talking about white superiority, honestly.
Who defines the meaning of God also defines the relationship between economy and God.
African Americans spent $1.3 trillion last year, making us the 16th wealthiest nation in the world. Why have we not turned those riches into wealth to develop our community?
You know, and you opened the door for the next question. I mean, you opened it, just kicked it wide open. What are the ways we could develop generational wealth? And you already touched on this, you know, just by helping developing your children, so forth and so on. But if there's anything else you can add to that.
Yeah, you know, with generational wealth, it's kind of one of those things where you got to first start off by understanding the pillars of wealth, right? How do people get rich in the first place? How do people, how do people actually, make money? And you know, where do rich people come from? They don't just get delivered by storks. It doesn't just happen just by happenstance. There's some deliberation there typically, especially when you're talking about people that are self-made, right? People that actually go out and deliberately do something to change their economic condition. It's not just luck, right? So if you believe that it's not just luck, then what you do is you say, okay, well, what are the three ways that people get rich? Well, in the Black Business School, we talk a lot about the pillars of wealth, right? And the pillars of wealth are basically stock investing, real estate investing, and entrepreneurship. Those are the three ways that people get rich in America and around the world. And so if you think about it like this, right? So our goal as Black people is, how do we shift our economic condition? How do we, use the pillars of wealth in order for us to have the things that we want? Well, maybe if you look at what we spend our time on and really critically analyze that, that might be a good place to start, right? So, for example, when I was in Louisville, Kentucky, and I was going to speak at this church called St. Stephen's Church, I remember I saw a bunch of little Black boys practicing football on the football field. And the interesting thing was that these little Black boys were practicing on the field, and they looked like they were working hard. It was really hot. It was about 95 degrees, but they were still out there, and they were about 12 years old. It looked like they were really trying to win. They were very serious about football. And you know how people get, when it comes to trying to win championships with football. I've seen people, coaching peewee leagues, and they take it really seriously. And then I went into the church, and I had a meeting. I had a series of meetings in the church that lasted about maybe, 3 hours. I came out, and the sun was going down. 3 hours later, and those little Black boys were still out on the football field practicing, for whatever they were practicing for. And I thought to myself, I said, I wonder what would happen if we had our children training for economics to get ready for the economic battlefield the same way we get them ready to compete on the football field. Like when kids do, educational stuff, it's interesting. There are some people, and I notice this in college as well, where they will take the thing that should be the main thing and they would make it almost like the extracurricular thing. Like you ever go to college, this isn't everybody, but you ever see somebody in college where they have a step show and they want to look good at the step show. So they will literally be really intense and really focused when it comes to practicing for the step show. But if they have a test, they kind of halfway do it and halfway don't do it, wait till the last minute, and kind of take whatever grade they can get. But you better not show up with a bad step show, right? Because everybody's going to make fun of you, right? Well, I think that's a problem with culture. That's something where you have to stop and say, why do you pay more attention to the step show than you pay attention to the big show, the big dance, the big game of global economic warfare that you have to be ready for, right? Or why do you prepare harder for the football championship than you spend preparing for the thing that's going to basically determine your family's ability to survive when you get older? So we have to sort of, I think, when you talk about building generational wealth, we got to really look at the culture. And, not community-wide, not all the whole Black community. I'm talking about in your own family. Just start right there and say, what culture are we going to have in this household? And what are our core values going to be? It doesn't mean we can't do all the other little things. You can play football, play basketball, eat chicken, dance, twerk. I don't care what you do. But just sort of know what is at the top of the priority list. Okay, no matter what we do, we're going to make sure we're financially straight. We're going to make sure we're secure. No matter what we do, we're going to, maybe do the $5 a day investing plan with our kids so that when they're born, by the time they're 25 or 30, our kids are not going to be stuck in the economic struggle. They're going to have $250,000 in liquid assets, which is going to change everything. right? That means no student loan debt. That means they can own a house as soon as they want one. They can quit their job and start a business and raise the $5,000-$10,000 they need to get the business off the ground. They're not going to be playing strugglenomics. They're going to be playing powernomics. They can go out and they can make moves, right? So little things like that are huge. I think the basic things like life insurance. Garrison mentions life insurance. I agree. Life insurance is massive, right? So process that, right? Like, so how much can you say you really care about your family when you didn't even spend the couple of dollars it cost to buy the life insurance, so that when you die, they're not gonna be destitute just because you're gone. So I think that little things like that can make a big difference, and I think it starts with shifting the culture.
He's talking happy family, economics, politics, and culture. That's the keys to us. That's the keys to us thriving, not to our survival, to us thriving. I know, Dr. Watkins, we're short on time. Do you have a couple more minutes?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Wow, nice discussion. In this whole COVID world we're living in, some of the questions that came up was, what ways can we generate wealth in this pandemic?
Well, it's got to be all digital right now. I mean, I think digital. The pandemic really accelerated digital business in a major way. Those are the stocks that are going up the most. The stay-at-home companies, things like that. A lot of people are starting online businesses because you're stuck at home. That's the only way you can work and make money a lot of times. I also have seen people pivot into offering products that relate to the pandemic. Maybe if you're buying custom-made masks, at a low cost and selling them at a higher cost. What happens is that as the world changes, the economy changes. So right now, you still have an economy. You just have an economy that looks different from the economy that you had a year ago, right? So what I would encourage people to do is look around them. Go online, and there are plenty of people that are talking about what's going on economically. I know at the Black Financial Channel, for example, every day we're always talking about economics and what's happening in the world and stuff like that. So there's resources out there that can allow you to kind of figure out, okay, this is a reset button. Like, we've hit the reset button on society. How do we find a way to ensure that when we hit that reset button, in our personal lives, that we end up in a better position afterward than we were before? So this is an opportunity to either experience despair or to experience liberation, where you're freed from your old life. Like, for example, for years, we've been trying to get Black folks to consider homeschooling their kids. Well, COVID forced us to all do that, right? So now you have a new set of habits than you had before. But at the same time, I think the big challenge, the thing that I just hate the most about it is that not everybody's adaptability is the same. And there are some people that, that are struggling. And it's very unfortunate because they're telling everybody to stay home, but not giving anybody any resources to do that with. And I think that is that's going to really mess up society, man. It makes me very sad.
What are your thoughts on the post-pandemic economy? What does that look like for us?
Well, it's going to take a long time to get back to, we're not going to get back to where we were before. There will be a new normal. And I think that they want there to be a new normal. I don't know, maybe I'm a conspiracy theory, but I don't think these things happen by accident. It's not so much the virus itself. It's more so the reaction to it. Most politicians, like Rahm Emanuel, who used to work with Obama, who's used to be mayor of Chicago, he said something like never waste a good crisis or something like that. So crises are seen as opportunities by politicians and people that make moves, and they're major move makers. That's how they got to be mayor and governor and all this other stuff. So they're kind of strategizing around this to create a different set of realities. And so I think that after the pandemic is over, I think you're going to see a whole lot more of a digital side to the economy. I think a lot of people that have now finally experienced the joy of working from home as opposed to going to work every day, they're going to stay that way. I think the cities are not going to be as alluring to people as they used to be. And a lot of us have been traumatized economically and otherwise, in the sense that if you did make a big investment in the city, whether it's to get an apartment or a home or something like that, or maybe if you are a business owner and you put a bunch of money into having office space in a big city, you're not going to do that again. You're gonna say, okay, how do we do this better from a digital perspective? So I know that like our company has always been pretty digital, and we were just trying to tell everybody like this is actually pretty good. It's cost efficient. It allowed us to really grow the Black Business School without charging a lot of money because we kept our costs down. Right, that's how we're able to give people something better than a college education, but we give it to them at a fraction of the cost because we didn't have a lot of overhead. So we weren't in a rush to have a building. I wasn't in a rush to have to leave the house every day. I actually like being at home with my family because I realized over time that that's what we're supposed to be doing anyway. That's where we belong. So personally, I think the post-COVID economy is going to be one that's definitely very digital. People will never really be comfortable around each other again. I think we've created a lot of germaphobes in the world. And also I would say that that there's going to be a lot less economic trust. I think that a lot of the investments that would have been made before are not going to be made, but that doesn't mean new investments aren't going to be made, right? So what happens is that when something like this occurs, the wealth doesn't disappear. It just shifts. So you got to learn how to get your eagle eyes going so you can see where the money, where the opportunity goes. That's an important part of being an entrepreneur.